Hello and welcome to today's video on managing remote teams. The objectives of this video are going to be first to discuss the permanent remote work shift, resiliency within the organization, designated work area, technological needs and technological issues, user error, effective ways to managing project teams remotely, losing the camaraderie with teammates, adjusting long-term, weight gain, ways to manage your personal time, and effective ways to manage work time. So let's go ahead and get started. The strength of a team lies on how cohesive the members are as a unit. This becomes even more challenging when a team is spread out across the globe. Along with variations in time zones, a project manager needs to understand differences in cultures and personalities in order to create rapport. By developing a dynamic, cohesive, and collaborative team culture, a project manager is able to create an inclusive environment that unites a team even when they are physically distanced. With the pandemic hitting the world so hard and quickly last year, many organizations needed to shift their mindset on how to make remote work the only way to manage teams. The pandemic caused many organizations, including my own, to think about the safety of its employees first, and then how they could possibly lose business or keep it. However, different generations of people still have that old mentality of project management not being efficient exclusively remote, and they have their doubts on it working. Oftentimes, senior managers are very against remote work, so much so that prior to the pandemic, they probably were completely against it. The pandemic caused a shift in their thinking. Whether they were ready for the possibility of remote work or not, due to the situation of the pandemic, they were forced to make it happen. This changed priorities of projects, organizational skills needed, and disruption to normal work hours. Resiliency in the face of the pandemic is important. Organizations need to be ready to continue business as usual, where productivity still remains the main goal. With remote work being exclusive, many organizations started realizing that they were able to keep their costs the same, lowering overhead of buildings that project managers and project teams were reporting to. One important aspect of remote work is having a designated area where you can work effectively. Prior to the pandemic, that was probably basically anywhere, your kitchen table, your couch, outside on your deck, or even a local coffee shop. You just made yourself comfortable, connected to the internet, and you were all set. But since the pandemic, and things most likely have changed, you may have school-aged children who are now also needing a designated area to learn virtually. This means that you can't just all share the kitchen table because it would distract all of you. If you don't have children, this means you're stuck in the house and don't have as many options to work elsewhere due to the limited number of places allowing full seating and most people around restricting social distancing. I've been working at home now for so long that when I bought my house I currently live in, I immediately converted my formal living room into my office. However, you may not have this luxury or may live in a studio apartment or an open concept type dwelling. If you have other members of your family that also need to work or attend school virtually, you each need a designated workspace to be able to pay attention and limit distractions. And do yourself a favor. Do not make anyone's designated area a place where there is a TV either. Technological needs. As you may know, in order to effectively work 100% remote, organizations need to provide employees with the necessary tools for success. These tools entail technology such as a laptop, secure internet connection from home, a means to communicate with their project teams, such as through Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, or Skype. And thus, with the influx of school now being taught online throughout the country due to the pandemic, this also leads to a backorder of laptops from many technology companies over the past year. So it's hard to get everyone a laptop to work remote because the schools took priority, but many organizations were basically then forced to require employees to bring their own technology, such as using their own personal laptops or tablet for work until the organization could provide one for them. Technology issues can be anything from a user not having the right technology or version of the software to power outages in areas due to things like recent weather storms. The different areas of the world are affected by different unique natural weather that now, as a project manager, you need to also put on a hat of a weather person. When you're all co-located, you know what the weather is, give or take. But when you're working remote, you may have team members experiencing earthquakes in California, or hurricanes in the southeast part of Florida or Louisiana, or hailstorms in Texas. Any of these number of events could happen. So you should have a means of communication to be able to contact your team members and have them contact you so you can check in on their safety and if they're unable to get online and work. But make sure not to abuse this and just use it to check in on them for safety, as it will get annoying to them and make it seem like you're micromanaging them. Use it only in case of emergency purposes. My suggestion is texting, since we all usually have our phones with us everywhere that we go. And if you do not want to give your boss or colleagues your cell phone number, then you can always just create a Google Voice number, which then you can open up in Gmail and email them, and it'll text to their phone and you can receive their text as well. Along with having technological communication systems available to all employees, you also need to make sure that everyone knows how to use the technology. Different generations are either more or less savvy in how to use the technology, especially if they're used to being in an office where they can just reach out to the person in the next cubicle and ask them for help. I'm sure now that everyone is working remote, this could be a really frustrating issue for some, and they are not used to not having someone right there to help, and they're not used to getting on a phone and waiting on hold for many hours to get a live person to help them out. These hold times also could be really frustrating for them. Another technology issue I have faced in remote project management work is disconnections from meetings during an internet or power outage in my area. Because I'm not physically located anywhere near my team members or customers that I connect with on meetings, they may not understand why all of a sudden I dropped off a meeting call or show as offline for my meeting in IM. It's really stressful and frustrating when this happens, since it's out of my control. And it can happen to anyone, anywhere, and could be as simple as a quick flicker of the power causing your router to reboot and taking 5 minutes for you to get ready to get access again. These are the type of frustrating technology issues that don't always happen, but they can, and it happens, and it's very frustrating when you're not co-located. So everybody needs to know about this because it's encountered by everyone all the time, and it's normal. One aspect of remote work that most people do not have to deal with in traditional workplace environments is what I call user error with technology. In a traditional workplace, if you're in a meeting, you can usually see the attendees and who's not really paying attention because they're looking at their laptop screens and typing away or looking at their phone if they're allowed to have their phones in on the table. In the remote world, however, there will be people who do not know how to use the technology correctly, or they're not paying attention, or they're multitasking. And it's hard to see because they may not all be at the same table with you or have their web cameras on. The common issue that I see in remote work is when someone is not paying attention or multitasking and doesn't realize how to correctly use the technology that they're given, such as sharing a screen or calling in or putting themselves on mute or taking themselves off of mute. The most common example of this is when someone's talking on mute and doesn't realize it. It is frustrating to everyone on the call because the user's comments or questions aren't heard and the team's thought is that the discussion is over. So depending on the system you use, you may or may not see the microphone next to the name, so it'll say whether they're on mute or not, because if you're in a meeting and there's like 100 people and attendees, it won't show it next to everybody's name. So some systems do this and some systems don't, depending on the amount of people. But it is up to the individual person to realize what they're doing wrong in order to correct it. What I like to do in my meetings is somewhere between the meeting and at the end, I usually just say, okay, is there any questions? And then I'll usually wait for about 30 seconds. And then I literally say, if I don't hear anything, I'm assuming the answer is no, or you're talking on mute. Don't worry, I do this at least once a week. I honestly don't recall when I've ever talked on mute or forgot to take myself off of mute, but I try to put the other people at ease so that they don't feel dumb because they forgot to take themselves off mute. And I swear, I think at least half the time, all of a sudden I hear, oh, sorry, I was talking on mute, and then a question's asked. So therefore, just assume that someone's on mute and ask. And as we all know, open communication is always best to set expectations and eliminate confusion for a project. But due to many different time zones now being factored into the equation, you need to be very flexible in your expectations of responses and deliverables for projects. As you may be used to your time zone where you previously were reporting to the office, you may have other people who are on different time zones and they work at their hours and may not have the same hours as you. Now, I hear that the biggest loss for employees when working exclusively remote is the real personal face-to-face person contact that they had with their team members when they were in the office. There is a sense of camaraderie with teammates that you can't be fully replaced when you're working remote. So a project manager can also feel isolated and alone when not co-located with their team. I found the workaround for this is to schedule non-work related meetings, which can be done over webcams or just on a phone. What I like to do is I like to schedule it like once a month, and I like to have the webcam on just so it feels more of a personal touch. I do this with a couple of colleagues of mine, and I feel like it keeps us closer and it builds that camaraderie. Our calls, though, are not about work at all. They're about common likes or food or learning opportunities or movies, and I felt that this helps keep the camaraderie with them as if we were still co-located and we're like going out to lunch. Now, adjusting long term, there are many more distractions in your home that were not in existence in the workplace. In order to make remote project management work long term, you need to be proactive and take certain steps to set yourself up for success. First, we all strive for a no barking meeting, which means that you shouldn't have your dog barking when you're in the meeting. What is quite comical is I work with one lady who has a bird and another one who has a rooster, and that's always fun when you hear that in the background. And so if you may have a pet, and if you do, they're constantly seeking your attention now that you're around more in the house. What I find that works is if I pay my pet more attention right before I need to do an important work or get on a meeting call, she tends to leave me alone for a given period of time. And this gives me the time to be on the call without her leaning on me. And although pets do remove stress from your life, try to do this to lessen your stress level because you don't need them driving you crazy where you're on a call. If you find that your pet will get the attention that it needs, you'll be able to do it at the convenience when it's for you. Another distraction is your cell phone. When you were in the office, I'm sure you had a person or two who had a cell phone go off in the middle of a meeting. When you're working remote, the same thing happens. You might hear it in the background and you're wondering why they didn't put it on silent. Well, the same thing happens when you're working remote for yourself as well. I know that I may hear a ping for an IM from a friend or family. So what I do is I turn my cell phone off. I keep it on silent. I'll check it twice a day, and that seems to work well for me. But you need to make sure that you tell your friends and family to respect that you can't answer them immediately because you're working. So many people think that just because you're at home, you're now available. So you need to set the expectation as if you're not there and hold people accountable to it. Another big distraction is if you have children, especially young ones, they may be acting up when you need to get on a meeting call. This is normal. But although my children are older now, they weren't when I first started working remote. So what I found a great solution was I put a note on my office door when I'm in a meeting and I can't be disturbed by anyone. And then I have them respect that note. I take the note down at the other times and I open my door so that they know I am accessible during the day, just not during certain times. Because if you think about it, there are times when you're in the office, when you were co-located, that other people just stop by and kind of do the same thing. It's the same kind of distraction. So it's okay for your children and family members to stop in when you're not on a call. But again, try to put like a note on your door to let them know. Now I have glass doors, so it's a little bit easier for my office because if my doors are closed, they can just kind of look in it. I can shake my head no and they see me. But if you have a door that's not glass, just put a note on and tell them that they can't just come knocking or barging into the office that you're working in if there's a note on the door. And then since I work from home and my office is right next to my front door, which may be your situation too, I may get a delivery from Amazon or FedEx or something that stirs up chaos in the house when the door rings and all of a sudden the dog starts barking. So what I do is if I'm expecting a delivery to the house and I know that the doorbell will get the dog barking, then I'll put a note on the front door as well and let the delivery person know, just leave the package and don't knock. Obviously, if somebody else in my house ordered something and there's an unexpected delivery, there's going to be the doorbell ringing and the dog barking. So that's going to happen. And I'm sure it's happened to you when you're on a meeting and you hear somebody else. Just make sure you're on mute if you're not talking. What I do is I just simply say, sorry for the dog barking, somebody came to the door unexpectedly, and then just continue on as if nothing happened and people understand. I know many people will tell me that since they have been working 100% remote that they have gained weight. And this is before the pandemic, so COVID really isn't even an excuse. Many people find that the shift from being in an office to having their fridge accessible is a bigger temptation to bring food and snacks to their desk and eat throughout the day. It is possible that they are sitting around all day instead of walking to meeting rooms as well. So although I haven't found this to be a case for me, it may be because I'm used to not just sitting down for 8 to 10 hours straight. I personally have healthy snacks in my fridge and pantry, and I make things like smoothies if I have a meeting that runs through my lunchtime, which I generally do because much of my team tends to be on a different schedule and their meetings are my noon and it's early morning for them because they're West Coast. So what I do is I make a smoothie, and this seems to be a way that I can at least eat, and I'm not munching on the microphone or choking on food if I'm called upon to speak all of a sudden in the meeting. I also have a mini stepper next to my desk, like the one here shown on the slide on the left. This way, if I'm in a meeting that I'm not running and I only need to listen in on, and I have at least, probably a couple a week, I could do the stepper for part of the meeting and then get my exercise in. I do have teammates actually who have standing desks that go up and down. It's quite pricey, but a good alternative to this is to get yourself a laptop stand like it's shown in the middle on the screen. It's not, that way you're not so stationary. You can kind of stand up for some of the day. And you can get them for usually between like $30 and $80 online. And they move your laptop up and down so you can either stand or sit anytime during the day. Overall though, get up and move more. Take a walk around your house, pick up your clothes and clutter, go out up and down the stairs a few times during the day, do your laundry, take a walk and get some fresh air. All these little movements throughout the day will help you with weight gain. For those of you not used to working 100% remote, it is very easy to get burned out because your work doesn't go away. It's sitting there waiting for you 24/7 on your laptop or work phone, accessible anywhere you are. It's not like you're leaving a physical office anymore and you can just leave it behind. But to avoid working excessive hours, you need to schedule personal time on a daily routine. I do this every day. Remember, it is okay to take a lunch. Go for a run or exercise during lunch hour. I go for a walk or I take my dog for a walk. I do my laundry and I just take 10-minute breaks. I also shut my laptop off and my office doors once my work day has ended so I don't hear emails pinging from the other room and calling for my attention. The key is to not get burned out working remote, and it's basically to take multiple breaks throughout the day. I have found this to be extremely important as it'll help me mentally either prepare for a meeting, answer an email in a more professional way, or just think through a problem that I'm trying to figure out because it gives me a little bit clearer perspective when I come back. I find that just simply walking my dog, for instance, helps clear my mind and I can address an email or problem better when I return. So make sure to take these breaks in small increments like you would a normal work break if you were in the office. I'm sure that you used to take water or bathroom breaks or a smoke break. Well, you need to do the same while you're working remote. If you have a doctor's appointment also, make sure to block off the time of not just the appointment, but the travel to and from, and put it on your work calendar so you're not interrupted. Because otherwise, what I have seen is that if you don't block off the times, this can actually cause you more stress because people are trying to contact me and when to attend a meeting or to get on a call if they see my calendar isn't blocked off. And then I have to worry about rushing back to get on a call just because I had to go out for a doctor's appointment. So don't add more stress to your life. It's okay to have doctor's appointments or dentist appointments. Just put it on your calendar so others won't expect you to be available when you're not. Just like your personal time, it is important to keep daily routines for work-related items. If you're more efficient in the morning after a cup of coffee, then don't schedule important meetings before then. If you have more time in the afternoon, during lunchtime or early afternoon, plan to do the majority of your email responses then. I work best first thing in the morning because I have less distractions and I think more clearly. I don't drink coffee, so I start immediately right after I get up. Now, albeit I may still be in my pajamas, but I do start my work. And note that one of the great things about working remote is you don't have to get dressed at any specific time, unless of course you have a webcam meeting. But don't let that get you in a rut of not keeping a routine. I personally take a shower and get dressed after I get everything set up for the day, such as I come down and I check my emails, I reply to my emails, I look at my meeting agendas, and then I take my shower. Sometimes that's 9 a.m., sometimes it's 11 a.m., but I don't stress it. What I do is I know that I'm going to take a shower and I'm going to get dressed before lunch, and I think better in the afternoons when I'm dressed also, and I don't want to get myself in a rut of being in the pajamas all day. It is important to keep a daily routine or you will not be organized and you may get flustered easily. It's also important to get dressed and in comfortable clothes that you can think better in. If you think better in sweats, then wear sweats. If you feel better getting dressed up, then dressed up. Whatever makes your work productive, as if you were in the office, then do it. I have one colleague who actually, it's quite funny. She can only think productively if she's all glammed up for the day and as if she's going to the office. This includes makeup and jewelry and great shoes. Hey, whatever works for you is great. That doesn't work for me, but that's the beauty of remote work. Nobody's there to pass judgment on what I'm wearing. So you dress for success and it'll make you effective in your work. If you like this video, go ahead and smash the like button. And if you want to see more videos on project management, subscribe to my channel because I'm uploading them every week. Thank you.